Okay, we are back here for round number 3 of 4 at Guardian Games, playing some modern analog Magic the Gathering. I am Travis, hanging out with Ian. We're from Portland Paper. We do streams in the Portland area, and looks like we have Ryan hanging out with us again, and playing Jund still against Kean Kirby, who's on Grixis Shadow.
Kian's a great name. You know why?
Why is that?
It's just one letter away from Ian.
Are you like a feel like you're missing something?
Just an Ian enthusiast.
Hmm.
Just any sort of Ian enthusiast. Any type of IAN. But yeah, I am missing the extra letter.
So do you favor one side in this matchup?
Uh, you'd think I would have seen this matchup, but I haven't actually seen this matchup play out very much. So I guess from a theory standpoint, I would favor the Jund side because I think they have a lot of great answers to Kian's relatively few threats.
That is almost the same read as I would take it. Jund has a lot of generic answers to permanents. Kian is trying to play permanents and attack, and they're going to be really big, but you are generally going to have one or two cards that are you've cast early in the game that have high power, and Jund has a lot of tools to deal with that, and Kian is going to be really strained to play a threat, leave up mana for interaction, and then get around these cards like Thoughtseize plus removal. Liliana the Veil is very good against Death Shadow. So it's kind of an uphill battle, and Grixis Shadow has dropped a lot of their more grindy elements. Kolaghan's commands aren't necessarily even in the main deck or the deck at all anymore. Same thing with Planeswalkers. So.
He also has to be very wary of his life total in this matchup, far more so than he would were he playing just the green-black deck, as Ryan can sometimes have a hand with a couple lightning bolts, and so if Kian goes to 6 or less, he can be just kind of dead in the water.
And we get a tap land plus Inquisition. So we're going to get a fetch here for Kian. I bet it's going to be a fetch shock, and maybe we're going to do something like a Thought Scour.
Travis, do you have thoughts on the Bant Neoform counters deck?
I think it's, if we're talking about the Pognify one, I think it's pretty sweet. If we're talking about the Allosaurus Riders one, I feel like that's not great without the London Mulligan rule.
I was thinking, I wonder if we're just talking about Counters Company plus Neoform. Oh, okay. It is the Pognify creature one.
I think that deck's actually probably pretty decent tier 2-y. Like, interesting deck. That's not what you want to see off the Thought Scour.
No, that seems really bad when you're playing a limited number of threats. Yeah, not a great Thought Scour for Kian.
Yep. This is main phase, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh.
It hits the angler too.
So we are I mean, that's 2 anglers and 2 shadows down.
Yeah, and Kian still cannot deploy the shadow in hand. Actually, he will be able to deploy it this turn. He'll be able to Thoughtseize here and then fetch shock.
So you end up at 13 when this spell resolves.
Toss it out there. I think Kian probably needs to get on the board as soon as possible. If he has counter magic, I guess I could see waiting on the Death Shadow.
I wonder if Ryan's thinking about using a Assassin's Trophy on a land. I can't quite tell what's in Ryan's hand, but there's some questions being asked. Oh, no, maybe it was just deciding if Ryan should cast the Lightning Bolt or not, and Ryan elects to not cast the Lightning Bolt. Ryan has 2 lands left over.
I think that's probably the right choice here, knowing that Kian has Death Shadow.
It's an interesting subgame. How both the shadow player and their opponent manages life total. Like a lot of times you don't want to attack your shadow player if they don't have a fetch land or they're hanging out at like around 13, like 13, 14, 15.
Bobo also noting that Kian has, I think we did, yeah, we saw a Teamer Battle Rage in hand from earlier, so yeah, definitely have to be aware because
There you go.
that Death Shadow can kill you pretty fast.
Yeah, and if I'm Kian, I'm going to try to use that as soon as possible, because it really is rough to get 2-for-1s.
This up there go to 16.
Huh. Ryan picked up a Bloodbraid Elf, and is going to maybe cast it? Maybe casting it hoping for a removal spell?
Yeah, maybe he can hit the Liliana like he did last game.
After the shuffle.
Let's see. If Kian has fetch Shockland, we're going to go down to 7, so that would make a 6/6 Shadow. Battle Rage wouldn't get the job done.
Sure.
Man, John just has the best sweats, Travis.
I'm talking about trying to do this here.
So not exactly what Ryan was probably hoping for.
4. And I have the same. Missing the artifacts and
But
the
he is forcing Kian to respect the crackback here, if Kian does decide to come in with Death Shadow.
It does seem like almost any card Ryan flipped over would have been decent, even the hand disruption. Yeah, like all of the cards were in Ryan's deck were relevant at that point.
Yep.
It's kind of the old Jun special, right? Fill your deck with good cards.
There is a main deck K command.
Well, that's very good news for Kian here, as he can
Attack with the Death Shadow, buy back a Death Shadow.
Yeah, he gets to threaten a very real attack. I don't think I would have done this main phase.
I'm not
or
sure.
First main.
It's interesting. See, let's say if
Yep. You got it.
I guess in this case it doesn't matter when you do it,
Down to 9.
but it would have been interesting to see, to at least have given Ryan the opportunity to misplay. I guess Kian just really committed to that particular line.
There. And your go.
So Ryan has entered the abyss.
I think that was another shadow picked up from Kian. I'm kind of into attacking and battle raging this one.
Yeah, I think if I'm Ryan, I don't block here. I'm just really hoping that Kian's on nothing, and I'm going to be able to crack back with the Goyf and maybe even the Ravine to kill him. Because I don't know if you're winning this game otherwise.
Didn't have much in my early game.
I mean, Kian had it anyway, but that might have been kind of that turning point where you just have to go for your, your couple of small outs. But Kian picks that one up.
Well, sideboard wise, I'm sure if they're not in there already, the whole playset of Stubborn Denial is going to be put into Kian's deck. Probably some of the grindier cards. There's additional, we saw that K command in the main deck. If there's another one hanging out in the sideboard, are Planeswalkers. Usually Liliana Last Hope would come in. And Ryan might just be taking out some hand disruption. The shadow list is kind of very Turbo Xeroxy, where it's going through a lot of cards and playing a threat, but it has a lot of redundant cantrips, and hand disruption, especially things like Inquisition, aren't always that great.
What are your thoughts on Scavenging Ooze in this matchup from the Jun side?
Well, we saw a Kolaghan's Command in game 1, so Ooze could be decent.
it seems it's medium effective, but it's medium effective against a lot, right? Like you can prevent Gurmag anglers, you can stop snap targets, you can stop K command targets. Like it has utility, but
It can also like clear out the graveyard, slowing down Kian from casting delve threats, which can matter once we get to like the mid game, or if you're able to just keep activating uh, at in step to just clear out cards from Kian's graveyard, you can prevent something like an angler coming down if both players are in top decking later on.
so it looks like Ryan does have at least one Nile Spellbomb in the deck. It looks like two. Seen two so far. I
There's
love
three.
Okay, I love Nile Spellbomb in this matchup. I think there's very little cost to playing it. And I think it's huge upside if you can, like we were talking about, prevent a delve threat. I think, you know, this Grixis Death Shadow deck is only playing 4 Death Shadows, and it's not playing any way to search them up. So while it is like a little turbo Xeroxy with Thought Seizes and Serum Visions, there are games where it doesn't see a Death Shadow.
It's true, and there aren't that many threats in the deck. You just have your 3 to 4 Snapcasters, 3 to 4 Gurmag Anglers, usually 4 now, and 4 Death Shadows, so you're on maybe 12 threats in the main deck.
What do you think about Surgical Extraction against Death Shadow?
I don't like it very much. If you have cards that did absolutely nothing in your main deck and that was in your sideboard, sometimes it does more than nothing, but I don't think it's a card that I'd really consider bringing in.
Do you like leaving in bolts if you're on Ryan's side here?
I think I do leave in some number of bolts. It depends how many that Brian's playing. I don't think Jen plays a full playset of bolts. I think it vacillates between Fatal Push and Lightning Bolt. But I am a fan of leaving in some just so Kian has to respect not going down to 3.
I think I would take them all out and just assume that Kian would respect that. Like, I think he has to respect that regardless of whether you have them in or not.
Yeah, but sometimes it's really good and kills your opponent.
Yeah, but if your game plan is to keep your opponent off threats, which I think Jun can actually do fairly well in this matchup, then Bolt has very little utility other than that. Like, you're killing a Snapcaster.
Planeswalkers, I feel like those can be issues post-board, too.
You're playing Pulse and Assassin's Trophy, and I don't know.
Well, fair enough. Agree to disagree on that.
Fair enough. Ryan doing his best Death Shadow impression here. Fetch, shock, discard spell.
Oh, I got a K command, got a bolt, got a Thoughtseize, a bobble, and a spell snare. Seems like spell snare was probably from the sideboard. Shadow plays a lot of counter spells that cost 1 in the board.
Oh, I love the discard spell, take the discard spell play. And Ryan comes away with less life and more information.
Oh, so yeah, chat is curious if I don't like Southeast Portland, or is that Surgical Extraction? I like Surgical Extraction in very narrow situations, and I mostly like Southeast Portland, although I've only lived in the Northeast. I've been there for like almost 10 years at this point.
And I absolutely love Southeast Portland. I could not imagine living anywhere else. Except for maybe Northeast Portland. But I would never, I'm like a Nazgul, I just won't cross the bridge to the west side. Unless I'm on a train.
I do feel like I've been in Portland, like I said, almost 10 years. I bet I've been over to the west side less than 150 times.
That might be true for me too. I just dread, sometimes I work over at Nike and I just dread going over there. But anyway, back to this game.
Oh, well, looks like Ryan kept in a lot of the hand disruption. Get turn 1 and turn 2.
Okay.
And Kian going to go ahead and Thought Scour. Another Thought Scour and a push. Go into the bin. What are we drawing? I have a push, K command, Spell Snare, and Lightning Bolt.
Oh, get that K command out of here.
Yep.
Yeah, if the game plan is keep Kian off threats, which you love looking at the Death Shadow player's hand when they have no threats. I mean, if they're sitting on answers, I think Ryan's deck lines up much better. Most of the games I see this Grixis Death Shadow deck lose are the ones where they can't find a threat fast enough, and these other kind of grindier decks just have better grinding elements. That said, Kian can board into a fairly strong like Grixis mid-range deck.
I do agree with that, and that is the way that you're going to maybe have a chance, but Ryan is going to play the mid-range game much better than Kian's going to be able to.
Yeah, let me get my I will pick this card.
And so each player
Your turn.
discarding a land after Ryan plays a Liliana of the Veil.
I think Lily's one of my favorite cards in this matchup on Ryan's side. You feel like you're in such a strong position when you have a Lily on board and it's out of bolt range.
Yep.
So, Kian's playing an angler here. Would you go ahead and snap that bolt off on the Lily if you're in Kian's position here to keep her from minusing? I assume if you're going to run the angler out, you should, you don't just want to leave it dead to a Lily minus.
Agreed.
And Kian agrees.
Now, okay. Getting up. Or want some red mana. Yep.
Interesting evaluation of like card quality, board state, because you basically discarded a card kind of for free because you didn't actually deal with the Liliana, but you're able to save your threat for one more turn. Having Fatal Push, I feel like that's a way that Kian might be able to get through a blocker.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Right.
I think it seemed like the right call for that turn, but it's kind of a hard thing to do and evaluate.
Right. And Liliana's just, until Lily minuses, she's just at parity, right? Like Ryan's not gaining a whole lot by discarding his own cards as well. Because he doesn't even have all three of his colors.
Trigger. Game 2.
So Lily's hurting, it's been somewhat symmetrical.
Right. Yeah, but I feel like when you throw away a lightning bolt, that's basically like discarding an additional card. And that a Kitchen Finks was a great pickup for Ryan, allowing Ryan to keep the Lily around to minus, and then still have a creature left over.
Do you get greedy if you're Ryan and plus here and hope to minus the next turn, block with the Finks again, or is that too? Because Lily's real. I mean, you really want to keep that Lily around. Okay. Ryan decides to play it a little safer here.
And getting aggressive too, going for the attacks.
Go.
Yes, Raging Ravine, post-combat.
So he's found his red mana. I mean, this is a interesting choice, knowing that Kian was sitting on no threats. Now's the time to get in against this shadow deck. But we see another angler.
And we're leaving a push and a Kolaghan's Command in the yard.
Ryan lining up Liliana mana.
Well, that's a Liliana.
Yeah, do you just... Let's see, he's got a bob in the yard? Yeah.
Your turn.
I guess he can start looping that Finks here. If the angler comes in, he can block, and then he can minus, get back to Finks.
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, it does seem good.
There's a Jace Vryn's Prodigy, a recent addition to this Grixis Shadow deck list. Oh, that looks like that was a timely lightning bolt that Ryan picked up.
Still holding one card. Okay. I'm gonna
And Ryan actually knows what that card is, whether he remembers or not. It was a spell snare
I milled two first.
from
Yeah, okay.
earlier in the game,
Kitchen things. I'm gonna cast kitchen things.
I believe.
And then I will pull Jace.
And yeah, Jace being added to this Grixis Shadow list is a way to be a little bit more mana efficient. That's kind of why the Kolaghan's commands have been trimmed, and the other planeswalkers are in the side, as it just allows you to effectively do something like get card advantage with only 2 lands.
And it tends to be fairly trivial to get the cards needed in the graveyard to transform Jace. So, like we were saying earlier, Kian's seeing kind of the other half of his threats here. No Death Shadows and just Anglers.
And cashing in the Liliana for another creature.
So this is where we see the snare. So I think I might have waited on that if I were...
You know, I feel like that maybe was a bait spell.
You can tell me if I've got planeswalker, creature, land,
And you would rather have the Goyf out here if you're Ryan than the Bob?
Oh, there was our.
It's a pretty big go if it blocks Angler. So we got a 5/6er.
Fair enough.
Your turn.
And Kian's going to need to draw a removal spell or another threat.
I imagine that even if he'd gotten the Bob, that Kian would have been forced to sit back on defense with that Angler, just given his life total.
And we're going to get a dismember before damage after blocks are declared.
Oh, paying no life. Okay. Yep. Because you have the correct colors of mana. Your go.
So Ryan has gotten Raging Ravine mana here, so he's still threatening a crackback if Kian decides to get aggressive.
Sure.
And Ryan is at a very high life total here.
Yeah, he can hemorrhage for a while, and yeah, I like the idea of just getting in here if I'm Ryan. Kian probably representing removal, but I'd test him on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you have a lot of, like, you're out of Teamer Battle Rage range even. A lot of life to play with. And your top decks are usually going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that is one thing about John is they do tend to have really high quality of top decks.
For 5. Your turn.
Kian is going to go down to 3.
I believe that was 6. Am I mistaken?
No, it's actually 6.
Oh,
It's a
Kian's going to go down to 2.
2. Yeah.
He remembered his Ravine counter, so
Yeah. 3/3 with no counters on it.
I think Raging Ravine is my favorite creature land.
Oh,
I know. You obviously are a Colonnade fan.
You know, that's actually, I like it for creature lands, Creeping Tar Pit. That's my
Oh,
favorite.
okay.
It's kind of like saying I'm going to creep on in there.
Ah, Travis. Mutavault. Mutavault's everything.
Fairy Conclave is also pretty cool. I really like the art on that one from, I guess, Urza's Legacy.
Kian scoops it up.
All right, game number 3 here.
I'm not sure how you're gonna.
That's kind of surprising. Maybe, do you think it was greedy of Kian to have swung in there
I mean, you did get the double angle.
with the Gurmag?
That was pretty good. When I dealt with the first.
You know, you do have to win the game, but it was perhaps a little preemptive, because once you have one uncontested activation of that Raging Ravine, it's going to trade with the Angler, and so you're forced, by not attacking, you're forcing Ryan to either draw a removal spell or not be able to attack with Ravine. So I do like holding back.
I think so. Yeah. it's just for the
Plenty of time here for game 3.
Yeah.
there's just for
No one,
for the regular
no one doing
audience.
the sideboard pump fake,
Almost every Monday.
shuffling up the same cards.
Dread Statuary? I have no idea what that card is. I'm going to look that up.
Mutavault Dead Drift is in fact a creature land, not a man land. It can be anything.
So Dread Statuary. Also from, looks like from World Wake. A 4/2 Golem artifact creature.
Oh.
I mean,
4T is pretty big.
yeah.
I was waiting for you.
The art's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'll keep also. Yep.
That's true, yeah.
17.
It is untapped. I think I'm still more into Mutavault of the untapped lands.
Yep.
Oh, we're off and running.
We're
Travis.
going. We got a turn 1 Thoughtseize. We got a fetch, we got a shock, we got a Thoughtseize. Old lava axe to yourself. And we see a lot of bobs. Nihil Spellbomb, Liliana the Veil, Fatal Push.
Okay.
Okay, so Kian's signaling that maybe he has a removal light hand.
And Bob can run away with the game if it's uncontested, as we saw in our previous match.
Right.
Your turn.
And just seeing that Raging Ravine come down tapped for Ryan, passing it back. So this is where Grixis Shadow likes to be, especially if Kian's able to do something like fetch, shock, Thought Scour, play Delve Threat.
Yep.
I thought I saw 2 K commands in Kian's hand, which maybe he has kind of one of his grindier, more value-oriented starts here.
3, 6, 4.
Although I would kind of like to see 2 1/1 Death Shadows.
Yeah.
Oh, a little Hymn to
That's
Turok.
a fun one.
These cards, each non-land card advantage.
Okay, we're going to get Raya's Fall. So Ryan's going to reveal 2 cards at random from hand and then discard all non-land cards
So if I
that
show
are revealed
land,
that way.
I get to keep it. Other than that,
And we are getting the fall part
it could be 1 card, 2 or 2.
of Rise Fall.
If I show 2 lands, make it 2. 2. Okay, there we go. Yep.
We're doing the dice thing. Fine.
Yep. 2. Cool. So I keep that.
It's 1 land. So ends up being kind of a
A little bit better Raven's Crime, but
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, it didn't seem great.
yeah.
I kind of like saving that card if you're going to use the fall part for later in the game when your opponent is like holding on to removal and hasn't been playing lands. Just seems like a better late game card.
I think so too. Maybe Kian felt forced into utilizing some of his mana here. Although he will get a nice blowout here if he just K commands that Bob. But he might be thinking he really needs to save the K commands to get creatures out of his yard.
Yeah, there is a Fatal Push hanging out in hand.
Okay.
You're 11.
Feudal wants the very metal art of Hymn to Turok to be reprinted. As much as I think him is, I was gonna say fun, but that's not exactly
It's
what.
not fun.
It's
It's zero sum.
yeah, it's kind of a card that I don't think Wizards likes that style of card existing.
Yeah, that's why we have Burning Inquiry. So fun.
That card was bad until Hollow 1, to be real.
Yeah, and then it was
Card remaining. Is that right?
really frustrating.
Yes, I think Burning Inquiry is just really frustrating. I wouldn't even call it good.
Minus.
So
Your turn.
Kirby knew about that Liliana
I think that's maybe why saving the K command is to
command.
tag the Liliana and get back a threat.
Makes sense.
I have
I like that line.
Sure.
He's not even that far off casting it again.
And we have a Death Shadow, so Kian continuously presenting threats.
I mean, this is what a win looks like if you're on Kian's side.
18. You have 3 cards in your graveyard? Okay, and you're at 9?
So, do you spell bomb if you're on Ryan's side here?
Let's see. I probably, if I was going to do it, I would have done it in the upkeep.
Yep,
I'm gonna spell bomb
because
draw.
Kian can play an angler here. So, interesting. So, Ryan did do it, but he waited and kind of gave Kian the
1 card down.
opportunity, but did not get punished. Is it a counterspell? It is not. Or at least, it cannot deal with Liliana.
And see a replacement Shadow. But Ryan has a lot of leftovers and has not been playing land.
Yeah. Yeah, timely top deck for Kian.
Plus.
Okay, tags an island.
It's kind of a nice looking island.
Yeah. See, Kian rocking a couple of invasion printings that are really very beautiful.
And we get a Cycling with Street Wraith. Teamer Battle Rage would probably be the best pickup.
TBR would be fantastic. I think I just let Lily go here if I'm on Ryan's side.
You're holding 1 card. 1 card.
Yeah, I kind of think how do I get blown out, and it is Teamer Battle Rage if you block.
And it seems like Ryan should have plenty of outs to hit with this Bob. I mean,
Like just blocking next turn if you're afraid of dying.
right.
Sure, I'll block.
I mean, I guess you would potentially force out the TBR here, but I guess Ryan has been playing very conservatively, choosing to take the advantages he kind of knows he can get here.
I'm gonna exile. Your cards from your graveyard again. Draw a card.
And I think Ryan probably really hoping to hit another mana source. See Bloodbraid Elf hang out in hand.
That's a good one.
Okay, I was curious if that was going to be another Death Shadow. Oh,
Yeah, that's what you want to see if you're on Ryan's side. More threats go into the bin unless he drew a K command. Looks like maybe that was a Jace. Britain's Prodigy?
I think Kian referred to it as Baby Jace. And I kind of like it as Adolescent Jace, perhaps. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go.
Alright, we're playing some draw go here.
Yep, I think we're going to get a Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah, the 3. So I got myself at 11, you at 7.
Fetch shock on Ryan's side. And drops the hammer.
And you know what Ryan did? Left
What?
in Lightning Bolts.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
It looked pretty good taking care of that Jace Vryn's Prodigy the last 2 games. Just saying.
Yeah, I think we'd have to see the sideboards to really like make that distinction. It definitely Jace Vryn's Prodigy as an additional target certainly does make it better.
Sure, I'll cast the Inquisition.
He also left in all the discard spells, which was something that we thought he might end up taking out a couple of,
Yep.
or at least has left in some discard spells. Not really sure the.
Okay, looks like Engineer grabbed EE.
Set the Thought Scour. Okay. Sure.
And we have Thought Scour targeted from Snapcaster. And we're going to cast it on Instepped.
So value is exchanged on
Oh,
both
geez.
sides. Not great for Kian.
Kind of would have wanted to draw either of those cards.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just keep going. I'm just looking at that.
I wonder if Kian's playing any Faithless Lootings.
Sometimes lists are playing one or two.
Yeah, this can be one of those instances where it can be nice to have one hanging out.
Yep.
Kian drops a 1.
Ooh, Kitchen Finks. It's a good pickup. And I'm going to have a Raging Ravine be able to swing in next turn.
Yeah, this seems like an unassailable position. And Ryan manages to take the game here.
Yeah, it looks like we have about 9 minutes left, so I'll let you go ahead and maybe engage with chat a little bit, and I'll see if we can nab a game 3 of another round.
Sounds great.